Well, we're actually live, and welcome to you, Jane Marshal and Rubina, Latif. And we're actually doing something a little different this morning. How have you started your morning so far, Jane?
I walked the dogs. They're not very happy because they got a quick walk rather than a long walk, and did a bit of meditation and just got myself in the zone for this.
Well, welcome. And you, Rubina, because this is like the pre-show, just behind the scenes. How is your preparation? What time is it now in London at the moment?
So it is now 10:30 in the evening at night.
Saturday night.
10:30 Saturday night, yeah. So I've had the whole day to prep, decide what I'm going to wear, just go through my routine. So yeah, I've had the whole day for this.
Well, welcome to you. This is like the pre-show. People are just joining us wherever you are on the globe. It's fantastic. And I'm springing this on you both because I had to share. It's a typical Henry. Okay, so it's like literally, as I say in America, literally, it was like literally, I don't know, maybe 25 minutes before the show was about to start. And I'm not joking. And I'm like in a zen. I've learned that I can't be hysterical because it doesn't work. So I'm trying, and I've got to be on my best behavior for my guests. Nice and calm, all ready to go. The fire alarm starts going off like big time. This is an emergency. This is an emergency. Drop everything now. Leave now. And they were meaning it. It was serious. It was a fire alarm. So what I did was I thought, okay, the show has to go on. I'm going to take whatever I think was my essentials, and I'm going to show you what I took with me. I took my sunglasses, my handbook guide on how to drive. I took my passport because I thought, you know, when we get out of Australia, I am not doing without my passport. And I took my probiotics and I took my computer. I called my parents and I said, can you please put the cup of tea on because I've got to be over there in 20 minutes to do a show.
Oh my gosh.
What's with the driving book? Like what? Surely you can just download that off the internet.
Jane, I'm that generation that if I don't feel like it, if I'm not holding it, it's not happening. And I want to drive and I want to fly. And I wanted to I was already putting vacation. So considering all of that, and then I love it. I love Anthony downstairs now in our high-rise vertical village. And he goes, oh, it's all right, everybody. You can go back to bed now. It was just a false alarm.
Oh,
someone was burning their toast, probably.
Yeah.
Apparently not even. And so we're going down the stairs. Anyway, I am so thrilled to have you on. Are we ready for me to put you into the back of stage while we do our introduction? You're both ready?
You're the boss.
Here we go. I'm driving it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It's really been an extraordinary start to this morning and evening. Wherever you may be around the globe, I'm Henry Weinreich and I am your host. We are gathering quite a little bit of a network and it's an absolute joy to have you on board. It's not about fillers or boosting this show with other people that we know or we don't know. Good morning, Nicole, and good morning, Melita in Canberra. What this is about is building our friendships and building the people that we know. This is all about invigorating conversations, being inspired. And when you think about it, what better way to learn from each other than for us to actually put our feet in another person's shoes? And when I was creating the show, I also thought to myself, well, what's the best way of actually doing that? And really the best way of doing that is to put yourself in the shoes of your friends. Do you really know your friends? We have an amazing show coming up. Let's count it down. If you're joining us live, I'm Henry Weinreich, I'm your host. If you're watching us through YouTube, please do subscribe. Facebook, my website, which is henryandfriends.live. Welcome. There's a really exciting show coming up. Coming up this weekend, we have an extraordinary human being. And she actually specializes, believe it or not, a leading entrepreneur in corporate humanism. And she'll be speaking to us directly from Melbourne. She's now backstage at the moment. And then we swing over to London, the United Kingdom, old Britain, who we love. and she's effervescent, enigmatic. She is our London Beauty Correspondent. In fact, that is Ms. Rubina Latif, and she's going to be taking us through the long play of a facial reviver that we must have. The question that we've got today is a really interesting one. It's about takeaways. At the end of this program, we're going to be having links to these amazing people, how you can connect with them. Any advice or any thoughts or any things that you would like to share with us, please either hit up your comments on our comment bar, or you can go onto my website, henryandfriends.live, go on to contact and hit me up with any comments, any thoughts, any way I can put you in contact with some of our extraordinary guests. And today, the question has to be, and we've all been asking this question, it's been building up all week through International Women's Day week. And that is, do you have to have a crisis in midlife? Jane Marshall's going to tell us that and more after this little refresher. It's 9:37 a.m. Sunday morning in Sydney and Melbourne. It is 10:37 p.m. Saturday evening. That makes it 2:37 p.m. on a Saturday afternoon in the West Coast and 5:37 p.m. in New York City and the East Coast, and welcome around the globe. Who is Jane Marshall, you may ask? Well, not only am I proud to say she's a dear friend, Jane Marshall is actually one of the first executives working on the internet before there was a web browser. She's been the director of ITV London, probably the preeminent, if not the eminent, broadcasting network force in Europe, launching the first digital TV services program. She was the director at Telstra, and she initiated many new programs within the corporatization of the company. And then she leapfrogged into creating her own entrepreneurial enterprise, and she specializes in corporate humanism. And I'm bringing her on. Big applause to Jane Marshall. Welcome, Jane.
Morning.
How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you for such a kind introduction.
It's, I think I said when we started, we think we know our friends. And when did we actually meet? How many years ago, Jane?
I was probably 20 years ago. 20 years ago in West London, I would say. At least 20 years ago, maybe more. And we both weren't the people that we are today, right?
Well, we always evolve and we change. I think the thing is, we don't read the script of life. And what an extraordinary page has been turning right here, right now, this moment around the globe that brings us together in this way. Before we start, I want to just understand, you really have climbed and are climbing the corporate ladder. What do you think about all those achievements? First to the internet, one of the first to bring digital programs into ITV, some extraordinary programming for Telstra. You're now out on your own doing extraordinary humanist corporate work. What is it like being Jane Marshall?
That's a huge question. Honestly, having had breast cancer last year, I spent a lot of time last year looking back on my life and asking myself about the decisions I've made in my life and what I've done and where I put my energy. And honestly, no regrets or anything, because we all can only ever do the best that we are able to at the time. But if I could live my life again, would I do the same things? No, not at all. But in many ways, I've been very fortunate. I've had opportunities. I've learned a lot along the way, and all of those things have taken me to where I am now. But when I had breast cancer last year, when you have something like cancer, it's the first time in your life you really realize that there's an end to life. And that really forces you to look at how you have been spending and how you are going to spend the days of your life. And I did have a bit of a holy shit moment last year where I thought, I'm not really sure I used these 50 years the way I really could have. But that's okay. I'll have some time to do something different.
Well, it's interesting because when we do our interview with you next week, all those things that you've learned about what you could have done or you have done are going to be put into an extraordinary new book called The Phoenix Years, which we will get to in a moment. But I want to go back to basics because it's extraordinary. You know, we think we know our friends. And I was so impressed reading the accolade of your professional acumen. I want to get right down to basics. And that is, so many of us say midlife crisis. Do you have to be in midlife to have a midlife crisis? And what is it?
Look, I do think that there is something really unique that happens in the middle years. So I think the big thing about the midlife crisis is it's a complete misnomer. You know, people call it a crisis, but actually for women particularly, the midlife years are the most powerful, the most potent years of your life. And so it can feel a bit like a crisis, and things manifest as a crisis. You know, this is the time when lots of women burn out or they get ill or you have a divorce. So a lot of these things feel like crisis. But actually what the Phoenix Years is all about and what I really enjoy talking about is once you get beyond the feeling of crisis, what you realize is that this magical portal is opening up for you, particularly for women. You know, you've done your childbearing years, if that's the road you went down, your hormones are changing, you're going into menopause. There is this invitation, this portal opens up and there's this invitation for you to become the woman that you were always meant to be. Now, a lot of young women really struggle with confidence. They don't like their body. They're scared to use their voice. They're scared to not be liked. You know, we're full of these hormones that want to make us amenable to the world. And you get to midlife and you stop caring whether people like you or whether people agree with you. And there is this drive, there is this urge to throw off an identity that has worked for you for a period of time when you were younger and become a bigger, more wiser, more confident version of yourself. And this opportunity arises, and not every woman will say yes. You have to say yes, and you have to, you know, dive.
Can I ask you, without interrupting, because I don't mean to be rude, but I want to ask you, what I'm learning here now, which I never knew, is there is a correlation between your actual age, because talking specifically about women, there's menopause, there's things. So in actual fact, midlife crisis happens during midlife. But why the crisis? Why is it a crisis? And does every woman at that age, when there's that portal you were describing, actually have a crisis?
Why it feels like a crisis is, so this is the thing that really interests me. Like there are lots of societies that have had rites of passage, a rite of passage from adolescence into adulthood, a rite of passage in the midlife into elderhood. But in our kind of industrialized, urbanized societies, we've lost all of those rites of passage. And so nobody ever tells you, nobody at school, your family, your friends, older women, nobody tells you that when you get to menopause, when you get to 50, that you are going to feel fundamentally different about who you are and about life, and that the things you want from life are going to change, and that you start asking yourself big questions about what does my life mean and how am I going to use my life. Nobody tells you that's going to happen. So we have no conscious, purposeful processes or support or rituals or ceremonies for enabling people to make that transition.
So can I ask you, what physically, okay, because I've never ever gone down this route. You're so right. It's just not discussed. It's the hidden reality of women going through menopause. for those people that don't understand what that feels like, and I've never actually asked a woman in my life, and that's my industry, is women.
Yep.
So hands up, I'm totally confessing my lack of understanding of it. But what does menopause do to a woman? How does it feel? And what does that do to their mind as far as that portal?
So there's some really hard, like I'm doing it tough on menopause because of my breast cancer. So, you know, the really hard stuff is I wake up at 2 o'clock every single night. I haven't had a good night's sleep for a year.
Really?
You get hot flushes. I had never had anxiety in my life before menopause. And then a year ago, I started getting so anxious, I couldn't even leave my house. And I had to use Valium and CBD oil just to not lose my mind. There's cognitive fatigue, like just general confusion. So complete loss of sex drive. I honestly couldn't care less if I never had sex again. So those are the things that take a lot of managing. On the other side, I have never felt so free and so unencumbered. So as I talked about, like there's something really significant about the hormones leaving your body, like the estrogen and the progesterone. They're here to make you want to mate, which means you have to want to be liked and attractive. I could not care less whether a man looks at me in the street. I don't care if a man agrees with what I'm saying. I don't care if I'm liked. So you're suddenly free to be yourself in a completely unencumbered way. And it's the most...
Do you have to tell yourself... But do you tell yourself this? So what you're saying to me, it's so fascinating, Jane. What I'm understanding is a physiological component that influences the intellectual and the emotional stream.
Absolutely. I'm starting to develop a theory that a lot of what we think is our personality is actually our hormones. You know, so when your hormones go, you feel like a different person. It's extraordinary. But it's not just the menopause, although that's really significant. There is also something really significant about when you get to 50, and you'll know this, you are very well aware you are on the other half, right? So, and you might have 40 years left, 30 years left, but you're not going to be cognitively or physically there. So you start to realize I only have a certain amount of time to become the person I want to be and to do the things I want to do. And so you get this clarity, right? So when you're young, there's lots of noise. There's all these, we live in this world that's full of like so many opportunities, and we're also abundant in our time and our money. And when you get to this age, you start to only want to do the things that really matter, and you start to filter out all the noise.
So that's when we're going to be coming to a perfect segue, as we say in the television world. This is absolutely extraordinary. I am just loving every word you're saying, because that makes me understand so much about so many things that are midlife. And I'm going to have to I'm going to have to get you to come back and talk about men and their midlife, or maybe we just have to listen to women and like. But at the moment, it's a great segue, because what we're going to do is we're going to come back and talk about the positivity of midlife, because this whole question was, do you have to be in crisis to have midlife? My understanding now is you have to recognize it, and what is it that we need to celebrate? But before we do all of that, I am going to take you onto backstage, and I'm going to introduce Jane to the Extraordinary. Thank you so much for joining us. You're on Henry and Friends live right across the globe. We're asking the question, does midlife have to be a crisis? When it comes to crises and skin and all that sort of beautification process, we have our extraordinary, our very own London Beauty Correspondent coming up in a 30-second slice, and she's doing the long play of her Face Reviver. Here she comes. London calling. Good evening, London.
Good evening. morning, Australia. Oh, good morning, Australia, should I say.
How are you, my gorgeous? How's London?
I am really good, really good. How are you?
Oh, look, we're fantastic. And I have to tell you, the buzz that we've had for this week has been out of control. Everybody wanting to know what Jane Marshal has to say for herself. Everybody demanding that they have the full facial treatment from Rubina, Latif. So without any further drum roll, and I can see you're all dressed up, ready to go, could you please give us... Look, I've sort of got, well, I'll get one next week, and I'm sure Jane has got the most extraordinary closet of clothing I've ever seen possibly in my life, but that's not for now, because what we're going to do is I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm going to be watching you, putting you on a full screen, and I'm removing myself because I would like you to please give us the full play on your facial revival. You've got about 8 minutes, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And here we go, my darling.
Okay, so first of all, I just want to say huge gratitude to everybody who gave such good feedback on the facial that I did last week. But obviously a lot of people said if I could do it slower and if I could obviously do the complete routine. So that's what I'm about to do now. So like last week, I've already cleansed and I've applied serum to my face. If you wanted to do this in the morning, you can actually just apply your moisturizer and then do this routine, but do it as a shorter version. Obviously for me it's evening, so I'm going to apply some lovely oil. And just to let you know that there aren't really any skin types that cannot use an oil. But obviously that's something that I could go through if you wanted to, just send through questions about oils. You can even use an oil if you've got an oily skin. So I've got about a quarter of a teaspoon of oil here. So I'm just going to apply it to my face. Okay. Obviously avoid the eye area because you don't really want to do the eye area. Okay. So Henry's back on. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with lymphatic drainage, because what we really want to do is we want to get all the drainage going. We want to get all the blood circulation going. So we're going to start off with, this is literally just the sides of the neck. You don't want to be dragging down this area. So your thumbs are literally at the side. Okay. So just lymphatic movements are often very, very light. You don't need to be too firm. So just gentle movements down. Okay. So if you can see, just very gentle movements. And then we're going to work on the muscles around the neck. So we want to release these muscles. What you're going to do is you're just going to grab that muscle at the side of your neck, and you're just going to really gently pull it forward. Okay. And as you pull it forward, you'll feel it could be quite knotty, it could be quite crunchy. So this is really going to help to ease that area, and obviously this is going to really help to aid circulation. So you want to release those muscles, so just for improved circulation. Then we're going to do the same with the shoulder. So you're going to grab your shoulder muscle and you're gently going to pull it towards you. Okay, so you're going to pull it forward, and again, drop your arm. Really kind of intuit how your shoulders are feeling. And then we're going to do the exact same on the other side. So it's just that muscle there. So you're just going to pull it forward. And it just feels so nice. You can do it a bit faster if you want to, in the evening, you just do as many movements as you feel you need. And then obviously it's the same on the shoulder.
You know what I've noticed and I've learned tremendously, Rubina, from you and picking up some tips. I think people generally think that they're doing things good for themselves when it's like strong and hard. And even when you're talking now, it's almost medicinal the way you're talking. I want to ask Jane, who's now on screen, do you do your facials that calmly?
So I'm a really no chemical girl, and as I've got older, so I really resonate with what you're saying. I slather myself in oil because my skin is so dry. So my face regime is really simple. So I use really hard brown sugar to exfoliate, no chemicals, and then sometimes I'll wash with an oil, but sometimes I don't even wash. And then at night when I go to bed, I use hemp oil or rosehip oil, and that's basically all I do for my skin now.
So we're on the same page with Rubina. Thank you very much. Thank you. So Rubina, thank you, Jane. So we're going to continue on what you've been doing.
So then we're going to do this movement. And I remember last week I was saying slap, slap, slap. But what you're actually doing is you're going to cup your hands and you're just going to, just on the chest. Again, this is just going to help to get that circulation going, just to kind of really stimulate that area. You know, quite often we miss this area, you know, and this area, if you don't pay attention to it, you know, when you apply your moisturizers, bring the cream down here, bring it down your neck. Right, this is the next movement. I think a lot of people got confused with this. So what you're going to do is you're going to place your thumb there and your finger here, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to slide. You're going to slide right back to the ear, okay? So you're going to slide. That's it. You're sliding, okay? And then when you get to here, just there, it's almost like this part of the jaw. You're just going to massage that area. Just be careful because this can be really, really tender. So you're gently going to massage this area, okay?
That's where I think we got, so just so you know, we got so much feedback after the show. Lucy's going to be on next week, our style correspondent, was saying, my God, she's just feels so different. But again, I used to do all this stuff so much harder. You just really, it's really.
So you really don't need to. Okay, next we're gonna do the lips because you know we get them. So this always reminds me of my cat. When they want affection, so literally you're just gonna work your way around the lips, and you're just doing like what you know. This is all you're doing. You're just pressing gently around the lips, and then we're gonna smile. So you're gonna take your fingers, and you're gonna hold it there.
Like I need any help with a smile, but there you go.
We don't need any help with a smile, do we, Henry?
We all need help because you know what I've noticed, Rubina? Does this help with lip droop? Seriously?
Yeah. So you're just literally stimulating that muscle there and you're just holding it, okay? And again, hold it for as long as you feel. Next movement. Now, this looked really vigorous. When I watched back the video last week, I thought, God, this looks really vigorous. What you're doing is you're literally just...
Do join us in, Jane. Jane, do join in.
I was doing that.
Yeah. You're just moving your cheeks around, okay? This is going to help to, and you can go a bit harder with this, especially under that bit there. You can go a bit harder because we actually hold quite a lot of tension there, okay? So again, do that for as long as you want. Then fingers here and just here, really, really good for, you know, if you get sinus issues, you know, it's really nice to just drain that area when you wake up first thing in the morning. You're feeling a little bit sniffly. I've been feeling a little bit sniffly this week. So it's just really nice. And you can go quite hard. Right, next the eyes. You never, ever drag the eye area. So three fingers, and you're going to 1, 2, 3, pump on the bone, and you're going to take this right back.
Wow.
A lot of people think that our tension is on our temple. If you go past the hairline, that is where you get the tension.
Oh, my God.
Exactly.
That, Jane? I've always done that there.
Yeah. Okay, and you can, this is a really nice movement to do again when you wake up first thing in the morning. Okay, pump. Okay, that's that one. And then we're going to do the tension points here. Okay, press really hard and drain. Press really hard and drain. Okay, then we're going to drain down, drain down, drain down, drain down. Okay, now this is for our forehead. We get a lot of tension in our forehead, so we're literally going to go up 1, 2, 3, and then you're going to grab just underneath the eye. Just where the eyebrows start at the top, you're just going to pull up. And this is really good for
those of you that have just joined us on Henry and Friends Live right across the globe. We have Jane Marshal on your right screen, our amazing entrepreneur who has innovative programs for corporate humanization. And in the middle, we are doing a long play. If you want this played again, we will be on demand after the show under all our social platforms. And in the middle, we have Rubina Latif. We have exactly 60 seconds left because what we're going to be doing after the break, we're going to be doing the extended part of the show. For those of you that would continue joining us, we'll be doing after Rubina's finished. We're going to be doing the hack attack. And then part 2 is the Jane Marshal interview. And we're going to be doing saying our goodbyes. That'll be part 2. So, Rubina, I just want to...
just to end, give yourself a nice pat on the back for honouring your skin. That's what I always say. Thank you, Rubina, for honouring your skin. And here we have it. You can take as long as you want, or you can do it quicker. Yeah.
I think, Jane, we need to give the gorgeous Rubina a big applause. Thank you so much. You know what my parents told me when I came back after living in 15 years and living in New York City? Stop with the applauding. We're in Australia now. Anyway, that was extraordinary. And now I understand, because we all learn, and we're never too old to learn, as they say. I never understood why you needed more time to actually help us through what you've just done. That was phenomenal, and I do. And that's even more the reason why we're going to actually have a little bit of a break. This is part 2. Do join us, because it's as scintillating, exciting, enjoyable, and informative as part 1, except it's the booster part of the show. So when we come back, make sure you've grabbed a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, your bagel, your sliced vegan pistachio pancake, with a suggestion of olive oil and crème la fraîche, because now we're going to go straight into the hack attack.
Calm down before you stress up the groove. The energy a little different when the blessings accrue. Hey, who you talking to? Just know I ain't no regular fool. Could be anything in the world, but I can never be you, because I stand tall like I'm on my tiptoes. Baby, you think a little too small. I got big goals, baby. Hey, where the money at? Look, I just need the info. Pronto, I go and get it and split it with my...
Do I have a hack attack for you, ladies? I know I only gave you like about 32 minutes this morning to see if you've got anything. Don't worry if I put you on the spot, because I have. Did you have anything, Jane or Rubina, that you wanted to share?
No, I need to know what yours is.
Oh, you're good. That's why you do humanism, because you make it about other people. You're very good at your job and your profession. Oh, okay, it's gone. This is the most amazing thing I have ever seen in my life. Okay, I'll tell you exactly what it is. It is called Radio Garden. Now, I don't know if you, ladies and gentlemen, are completely fanatical about traveling, because at the moment, if we can't travel, we can do the next best thing. My hack attack of the moment happens to be this extraordinary thingy, which is basically called, and you can, this is not paid, by the way, although thank you, we have been starting to get sponsorship offers, which we will consider, as Jane Marshal will be conducting rigid corporate humanization interviews to see who will be sponsoring us. All jokes aside, Radio Garden is the most amazing thing since sliced bread. I have to tell you, it's extraordinary. Download it. And when you download it, what actually happens is you can get any station around the world. So it's basically on your radio. My dear friend Michael Matre, a school friend of mine, told me about it. So that's what I'm sharing with you all today. What do you think, Rubina?
That's amazing. I'm definitely going to download that. That's so good.
And Jane, what do you think? I mean, are you like, you know, at the moment we're talking about how we can't get out of Australia. Isn't that the almost next best thing?
I don't know. I've gone down the podcast route the last few years. So in my spare time, like, I don't listen to TV or radio. So I really like podcasts now, which I think is much more common.
Well, I tell you why I made this as a hack, because I love Hebrew, and I haven't spoken Hebrew for so long. I love Italian, I love German, and I love French. And so the way I learned Hebrew more fluently than any other sort of language in the world was I just kept listening to the popular songs, and then I would translate them, and my teacher would say, "Nice try, that's not correct," but that's how I started. But anyway, if you're doing your podcast, we might get from you next week your top 5, and I've just made a little note of it. Jane's like,
gosh, I'm taking away actions from here as well. All right.
Yes. Oh, no, there's always homework at the end of this. I mean, Rubina, you know, does all the preparation. Rubina, you will probably be going on that. And what we're going to be doing now is I'm taking you backstage, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jane Marshal on my right. In the center is Rubina Latif. I'm Henry Weinreich. I am your host. And coming up, we actually have part 2 of Henry and Friends Live. And the question is, if midlife crisis is not a crisis, why is it so good? Let's count down part 2 of the show. past the hour in Australia, in any part of the world except for India and Adelaide, which is quarter to the hour, quarter past the hour. Welcome, I'm Henry Weinreich and I am your host. This part of the show is your extended. So for those people who are joining us on the extension tour, we are now in the first class cabin and we're going to be bringing on Jane Marshal, an extraordinary entrepreneur in corporate humanism. And we're talking about if midlife is not a crisis, then why is midlife so good? And we're just going to do her little intro and then we're going to get right into it. Here we go. Oh, wow. You're so invigorating.
I've been in my head all week.
I know. It's like amazing to be able to sit down. That's part of this whole experience for those people who are joining us. We all become this network of friends. And it's so interesting. If you ever ask a friend of yours to actually send you photographs so you can do a video, you would be surprised how much you learn about them. I'm also going to be putting on Rubina for a moment. Look at that sparkly top, a change in outfit.
International Women's Week. I've got to celebrate. I had to get the sparkly top out.
Well, so I thought that we're going to go against the rules because we always go against the rules in our programming. And Jane's sandwiching, we're sandwiching Jane in between. This is something that we all were really waiting for. We were talking about how midlife can be, it's a nemesis, it's a crisis, but it also can provide so many takeaways. Jane, why is midlife then the good part of it? What's the good part of the midlife?
So I think the trajectory through life is different for men and for women, right? So no one talks about this. So if you speak to a lot of older women who are out in the dating market, they'll say that they don't date older men because older men are looking for pipe and slippers and a woman who's going to take care of them, right? So a lot of men, generalizing hugely, but they get to an age and they kind of, a lot of them stop growing. For women, it's actually quite different. For the first half of our life, a lot of us, not me, but a lot of us are tending for others, partners, children, older parents. And then the second half of our life is for us, right? It's only us, and we become more selfish, we become more brave, we become more connected to our heart's desires and the progression of our soul in this amazing adventure called life, right? We start to ask the big questions like, what does my life mean? What does life mean? And all the women I know who are aging are more vital, more interested in life, and they're on a path of growth and expansion and deepening. And so I think for men and women, it's quite different. And midlife for women is the moment where we become free of the expectations of others. And it's the moment where we get sick of playing small.
You get sick of playing what? Sorry? Sick of playing
small and self-censoring. And we just decide we're going to speak, whether you like it or not. And for a lot of us also, we get a bit sick of our own bullshit. We get sick of our ego and all the places that our ego has taken us to. We get sick of this identity we've been carrying. This identity suddenly doesn't feel like you anymore. It's like playing dress up, you know, when you're young and you put your mum's shoes and dress on. And I look back now at that person I was in my 20s and 30s, and for me, it's like a child playing dress up as an adult. For me, these midlife years is when you actually really grow up.
So, Rubina, do you relate to what Jane has been saying, and how, in what way?
Oh my gosh! I mean, it's like everything that Jane is saying. That's exactly how it is. And you know, I wish it was interesting what you said about the ceremony, and you know, I wish that somebody had said to me, or it would have been nice to have been held and to know exactly what it was going to be like. Because like you, I started to suffer anxiety. My skin went absolutely haywire. You know, I had feelings, you know, sex drive, you know, like you said, Jane, wouldn't care if I never had it again. And all those things were so completely opposite to what I was, you know, before the menopause. And I think the good thing is that there is so much more awareness now. Women are talking about it a lot more now, and I think that's a good thing. But I think we need to talk about it even more.
But what about you personally? Because like Jane's just discussed the things that she said generally, and for herself, her experience, has that been the same kind of experience for you? Not disappearing, having a voice. What has your been takeaway?
So like Jane said, a part of me was like, I feel so free because I can say and do whatever I want, and I have no qualms about doing it. It's like I'm going to be like this now until you know, the rest of my years. So I really don't care if you don't like what I say and you don't like what I represent. It's fine, because you know, this is how I am, and there's absolutely no way that I'm going to change. And it does. It feels so free to feel like this. It's just so liberating, because
Well, I think that on that score, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm sitting here going, I don't want to write my book for the rest of the day. I just want to replay this show like the 10 times over. I'm just tingling from excitement and knowledge and understanding. We're going to round up this whole entire show by you, Jane, if you could, telling us, first of all, what is here and now? What is your here and now in a brief snapshot, because we're going to tease the audience to follow through with your top 10 takeaways for what you've learned. But what's your here and now? Then I'm going to do Rubina's what's her here and now, because we're talking about feeling liberated. And then I'm going to do our final bit, which is our takeaway of the show and the thank yous. So over to you, Jane. First of all, what is your here and now? We've got about 60 seconds each person.
So my here and now, not only have I done menopause and midlife, but I've also just done a year of breast cancer. And so I have the sort of synergistic compounding effects of this huge sense of urgency. Like I haven't got a single day to waste anymore on doing things that don't make me feel good. Like I ask myself now that this thing that I'm about to do, would I still do this if I was going to be dead in 5 years? If the answer is no, then I don't do it. There's no time to waste anymore doing stuff that with people I don't like, with things that don't make me feel good. So now all I'm interested in is every single day of my life feeling good, enjoying my life. And I've actually found I enjoy peace and quiet a lot more. Like I just don't need to run around being busy and being noisy anymore. I just like sitting still and just enjoying birdsong or sunrise or sunset. So my life got really simple and I love it.
Well, next week we're going to discover the projects you're working on in depth, how people can invest in understanding you more, your takeaways, and wow, as I said in the beginning, you think you know your friends. Incredible. This is the penultimate comments before we do the finale. So get your finale outfits on because we're going. Thank you, Jane. For you, Ms. Rubina, Latif, what is your here and now?
So for me, incredibly, lockdown has been life-changing. You know, pre-lockdown, I had anxieties. I was in a lot of pain from not having children. But lockdown allowed me to just stop. Just literally just stop. And so very much like Jane, I know the people that I've really missed during lockdown. I love being home. I love cooking. I need to spend each day doing exactly what I want to do. I mean, and completely selfish. You know, if my husband wants to do anything and I don't want to do it, I'm not doing it. Sorry. This is all about me now. And somehow I've got to turn the pain of not having children into a passion. I've got to turn it into a passion. And that's where I'm at right now.
So I have to say to both of you, what I'm learning, and we're all a range of motions in the pages of life, is my takeaway that I've got from both of you today is we need to acknowledge our past, recognize the present, not only just live for the now, but shed everything that stopped us and get rid of the pain and get rid of the closeting, if you like, of who we really are. And Jane started off this show and you demonstrated that with your facial, Rubina, and that was, you know, when you start, you realize all the things you could have done, and now there's still time. Every minute that we spend is really, really important. Ladies and gentlemen, I told you we would have the most extraordinary show. Jane, what's your final one word?
One word?
One word. I never said I was going to be a nice interviewer. One word to sum up you right now.
Love.
Rubina, Latif.
Jane, I wanted to say love.
You're allowed. You're allowed.
Does it not go around?
Love. I think that's 2 words, but love.
No, there's a hyphen. There's a hyphen. It's 1 word.
You can both have that. I love it. Well, I have to tell you, my final parting words are listening, learning to listen more, to learn more, to understand that when I did all that TV, it was always on, and I've had to reprogram myself. If you want to hear much more from Jane Marshal, and I know by the way that we're getting our likes, by the way that you're retaining the audienceship, don't forget, I will be replaying this all day today and be writing notes. I hope you do the same. We really encourage you to go onto our YouTube channel. We need likes on that. We're averaging between 800 to 1,200 viewers a week. And that is without fillers, that's without artificial flavorings or colorings. What I want to say is to Jane Marshal, if you would like to contact her on janemarshal@gmail.com.
No. Jane Marshal is at gmail.com.
You know, I have the, thank you. Jane Marshal is, so that's going to, I'm going to correct my spelling for next week. Yeah. Please forgive me. Jane Marshal is at gmail.com. Rubina on Instagram, which is the Intuitive Facialist, and me on any of my contacts on henryandfriends.live. Thank you for joining us next week. Rubina Latif is going to be on assignment. We said that because it's Saturday night. She's actually going to be partying in Oxford and go for a girlfriend. Jane Marshal is going to be returning with the chemotherapy, the weightlifting, and the things that she can share with us that we can take away to make ourselves more whole. This is Henry Samuel Weinreich saying, keep your feet on the ground, keep touching the stars, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Thank you, Henry.
Touching me like lightning, keeping it exciting. You know exactly what to do to blow my mind. You're from another planet. I've never felt like this. I don't know how I ever survived without it. I'm starry-eyed. Got me upside down, spinning around you. Wanna taste the clouds, dance with the moonlight.
Oh my God. I'm going to cry. It was so good. I don't know. I'm such a fucking woman in that.
Is that all right?
Oh my God.
We're not broadcasting still, are we?
No. Oh, well, maybe we are. Hold on. I don't care. I have to tell you.
Henry, it says live. It says
I don't
live.
care. This is the after show. I don't know. Look, I have Amit's on assignment. Seriously, he's with his family this week. I don't know how to do this without saying to both of you, wow. I'm crying. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Oh, Henry.
Oh, it was just so, it's a bit like every week it gets better. Okay, what did you get from the show, and did you enjoy it, Jane?
Oh, I loved it. I mean, there's a horrible echo going on there. I'm not sure what that is. It seems like it was just so lovely being on with you, Rubina, and like knowing that we're on the same page, right?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, it was when you were speaking. It was just like you were just saying everything that I feel going through, having gone through the menopause. It was, well, it's just so nice to know that there's somebody out there that gets it 100%.
Well, I want to thank you both.
But that's why I'm writing the book, because there's all these women doing it tough, going through midlife, and nobody's ever said to you, there's going to come a point in your life where you don't know who you are, and you're tired and anxious, or your life stops working, or you're sick of yourself, and somebody. This is why I'm doing this thing, just because women need to know they're not a failure, they're not alone, there's nothing wrong with you, this is totally normal, and actually there's a way to go through this process and come out the other side even better and stronger.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is...
We are still live, by the way, guys.
No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually ring you, FaceTime Jane Marshal, and I'll speak to you tomorrow, Rubina, because I know it's late, because I just want to prepare for next week. Amazing show. It gets better every week. The content, I learned so much. I think everybody did. I'm going to go end broadcast. Next week, we'll probably have Mr. Amit Rahak. And Jane, I'll make sure that on our credits, I'll be sending you links in a moment. On our credits, I'll make sure it's Jane Marshal.
My email address right, dude.
What, darling?
Get my email address right.
Darling.
You tell him, Jane. You tell him.
That's right. Midlife means never having to take the wrong email address correctly. Anyway, it'll be on your credits. Actually, probably it's interesting because when something like that happens, it puts more attention on the fact of what I'll tell you what I'm finding as well. In the comments, I do recommend you go back on the comments because people really, that's a good way of connecting. And I'm about to end broadcast. Thank you so much. And I'm going to be calling Jane Marshal, and I'll be speaking to you tomorrow. Thank you. Have a great holiday.
Love you. Take care.
Love you.
Take care. Talk to you tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.